We the jack shit sippers. We sippin' jack shit sippers. We sippin' jack shit sippers. Alan hit me on my phone, he said I need...
Gotta love that intro music, boys. Week 7, 2025. Let's get into it. All right. Last week, your commish predicted the game that I dubbed the Clash of the Titans. We had our number 1 team versus our number 2 team. I picked our league villain, Chad, to win, as much as I hated it. I had him winning with, of course, Travis Kelce. But much like Travis this year, Chad's score came up short. He only had 137 points. It was his lowest score of the year. Why? Well, Chad, you're a freaking turncoat. You're this league's Benedict Arnold. You claim to be this Swiftie. You draft Mahomes and Kelce, but you benched Kelce for Kincaid. Well, that didn't pay off for you, buddy. Kincaid got you a big fat 0, and while sitting on your bench, Kelce got you 14. That could have made the difference in the week. But most of Chad's team did shit the bed, except Mahomes. Mahomes, that other dong lover. That dude scored 40. He is the number 1 quarterback on the year. His legs are rolling. The defense isn't good, or as good as it has been. They can't run the ball. Mahomes has just decided he's going to turn it on again. Gets him 40. Achane gets him 31. So of his 137 points, 2 of them scored more than half of his points. So our number 1 team did not have a great week. Let's see if Max could take the number 1 team down after an underperforming week. Well, I railed on Max last week pretty hard. There were a couple things that I said. One was Pacheco. I said he belonged on the waiver wire and not in a starting lineup. Well, statement confirmed. He got 6 points. Kansas City cannot run the ball. I also said that Judkins was good in real life. Love him as a running back. But I said I wasn't sure where he would get his fantasy points from. He's not catching the ball, and I don't think Cleveland's very good, so they're not getting to the goal line. Again, statement confirmed. He got 3 points. However, Max did manage 50 points out of his quarterbacks. I did say that Darnold and Baker were one of the best combos in the league. They still are. They're certainly 2 of the best quarterback values that were drafted, so good job at the draft there, Max. However, Puka, the other great draft pick, by far the number 1 receiver this year, well, he went down to injury. And somehow his kicker, Jags kicker Cam Little, he managed -1 point. I don't know how that happens. Someone needs to look into this and tell me if that's even real. But he has -1 point scored in the Yahoo app. Again, not sure how that happens. So, Max had his worst week of the season, scored only 114 points. Our league villain, Chad, you get the win, which also means the commish gets the win. I am now 4-2 on predicting games this season. Chad moves to a 5-1 commanding lead over the league. He is in first place. Max falls from 2nd to 3rd place. He still has an overall record of 4-2, so he is still in good shape. All right. On to week 7. This week, we have our former Sacco and new dad Cameron versus our resident owner of the league's hospital, Ryan. Cameron's in 9th place. He is tied with 5 other teams in a blob at 3-3. Most notably, though, Cameron has scored a league-low 772 points. He is in last place, making our Sim-Nasty weatherman look like he is a scoring king, despite his 7 on my luck rating. Makes Ryan sound like he's going to be great. Not so much. Ryan is just 1 place in front of Cameron. So he's in 8th. He is also 3-3, and he is the 3rd lowest scoring team on the season. The similar tales kind of explain why AI would predict this game to be close. It is predicting a 143 to 147 score, so certainly looks like it's going to be close. Last week I called the matchup the Battle of the Titans, 1 versus 2. This week, battle of ineptitude. One of these teams is going to walk out of here 4-3. So one of the teams is going to be in good shape, possibly in the playoff race, while the other is going to be 3-4 with a low-scoring team. They are going to have to start eyeing that Sacco race. So let's see where they end up. All right, at quarterback. Our resident Jags fan, Cameron, is bringing Trevor Lawrence and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels being back, he was injured for a couple weeks, is definitely a shot in the arm to Cameron. It might be what he needs to kind of get going again. Not only is he good, he gets the atrocious Dallas defense. 25 points is a minimum expectation in this game. I think he gets to 30. Now, on the other hand, we've got Trevor. He's playing the Rams in London. I would hope for a better week from T-Law if Puka was playing. I would expect the Rams to score pretty well against the Jags, even though their defense has done well. Trevor does have 40 attempts in high-scoring games, so he is getting after it when teams score against the Jaguars. He's actually done that 3 times this year. So I would have guessed that he would have a good fantasy day if Puka was playing, but he's not. Unfortunately, he is out. Probably cost Max the game last week. But anyway, right now, I'm not sure of what's going to happen with the Rams offense. They do have Devontae Adams, obviously. But both of these teams' defenses have overperformed this year. The Jags and the Rams look good on that side of the ball. So I can see both teams coming in with this kind of control the clock game plan because Kyron's been good. Blake Corum's kind of, playing, giving him some breathers, looking good. Travis Etienne looks great. Liam Cohen. Curley has been a great for the Jags run game. So I think that Lawrence probably gets to 20, but if Cameron gets there, that's about all he can ask for. So I don't expect Lawrence to have a great week. Ryan, on the other hand, this dude is bringing Goff, and wait for it, Aaron Rodgers to the party. That's right, this 100-year-old quarterback, but this dude is going to party like it's 2008. He gets the Cincinnati defense. They are bad. So, Rodgers has no chance at any point this season of throwing for 300 yards. He's just not. The guy is averaging 25 attempts a week. He's just not throwing the ball enough. And, did I mention, he's 4,000 years old. However, if he does have one shot at getting 300 yards this year, it's this week. So I can't see any scenario that he doesn't walk away with 25 points. Not because I would not bet on the yards, by the way. I would take the under on whatever the yards are. But he is still a good touchdown thrower. He has always been. And I don't know how Pittsburgh is not putting up some points this week against Cincinnati. There's no way he walks out with under 2 touchdowns. I think he gets to 3. Somehow AI only has Rodgers predicted for 7. So maybe I'm missing something, but I'm in on Rodgers this week. All right, Goff. Goff is at home. Home in the Dome. That is what matters. So home in the Dome, that means Goff is good for 3 touchdowns. It's at least on the table every week. Now, he does get a very beat-up Tampa offense. I don't actually think that is good for Goff. If Baker doesn't, bake, I can see some pedestrian numbers out of Goff. I think maybe they slow it down just because Tampa can't get anything going. So if you're Ryan, you're hoping that Baker does bake and he throws some passes and has to put up some yards and has to put up some touchdowns. But this is going to be a big swing game for Ryan. Now, I'm going to bet on Baker being hot because he is leading the MVP race. Or I don't know that factually. I think he is leading the MVP race after Allen's bad week. But if not, he's close. So I'm going to guess that regardless of all of the receivers being out, maybe Mike Evans plays, Goff has to keep up. I'm definitely going to side on that side of it rather than Baker not doing it. So, Edge, who's a go-to? Any other week, honestly, it would be Cameron. But this week, I'm taking Ryan, and I just think he's most likely to get to 50 points. It's just a matchup thing. It's just a matchup thing. If Cameron wins here, he's going to need Jaden to go off, which isn't impossible. All right, running backs. Now, remember at the draft and like week 1 and 2 in the newsletter, Ryan had the best running backs in the league, right? Well, we're in week 7. It ain't pre-draft season anymore. He still has CMC, and he gets Atlanta. Who cares? I don't. Every week it's 25 points one way or another. Whether he can't run the ball, which he can't right now, he's catching a bunch. He's not really scoring touchdowns. But the 1 week he needed a touchdown to get 25, he did. So who cares? I'm not analyzing this. He's going to get 25 points. The more interesting player is his Lion stack with Monty. Monty has 3 games of 8 points or less. Terrible. He's having a bad season. Except he has 2 games with 20 or more. So there is quite a contrast. So it appears Ryan is kind of capping his ceiling because if Goff does eat and, does have to throw like I think he will, well, then I don't think that's a Monty type of game. But if Baker doesn't play well and they're just trying to, win the game slowly and methodically, well, yeah, Monty might have a good week, but I think that then means Goff doesn't have a good week. So I think Ryan is kind of capping his upside, but it is in a game that does have a high over-under. So I would start both too, but I would be watching this game closely if I'm Ryan. I mean, this matchup could determine the week. So moving on to Cameron. Cameron does have Jaylen Warren back, so again, another shot in his arm. He's just had a lot of injuries. So his hospital unit is kind of on the mend and getting back. So like I said earlier, I thought Rodgers would clean up against Cincinnati. But what if it doesn't go that way? What if Warren gets the TDs? That wouldn't surprise me. Warren is definitely kind of the focus of the offense outside of, Rodgers to DK. They're not throwing to anyone else. The offense just overall hasn't been great. But Jaylen is definitely, the key to the offense. So this game is definitely going to have a big impact on the matchup. Unfortunately for Cameron, Spears also is back out of the hospital, and he's got Tony Pollard. At best, Tony Pollard is going to get 2 to 3 catches. Spears is taking all the passing work. He could end up with 0. So going up against a tough Pats run defense, I mean, I just don't see this as a Pollard week at all. I mean, maybe he gets 60 yards or something, but the only way that Pollard gets to double digits this week, in my opinion, is if he falls into the end zone, and I'm just not going to bet on that. So Edge, only a Sacco picks against McCaffrey, man. I mean, the guy's, as long as he's playing, he's fantastic. So definitely goes to Ryan here. All right, wide receiver group. Cameron brings his Jags stack. He has Travis Hunter. He also has Drake London and Jerry Jeudy. Not sure how anyone can predict Hunter. Liam did say this week, if I got to give him a positive, that he is planning on designing more plays for Hunter. So maybe this is the week he gets going, but I have no idea. I have no idea how anyone can even attempt to project this. I'm going to side with the fact that he has not had double digits fantasy points yet. So could this be the week he gets 10? I mean, maybe, but I'm not going to bet on that. So moving on to London. Man, I just wrote up London saying that he was underperforming, but then Mooney goes out and London explodes. Last week he gets a beat-up Buffalo defense and he goes nuts. So a fun fact, I don't ever remember this happening. London was literally the only wide receiver on the Falcons to get a single target Monday night. Literally 0 targets for any other receiver on the team. He got 16 targets for 10 catches, 158 yards, and a touchdown. What a game. I thought this guy was a baller. He's definitely proving it. I don't know what's wrong with the offense, but I do love me some London. So that assumes Mooney is not playing. When he plays, it just seems like they spread the ball to others, which doesn't really make sense. But man, when Mooney's out and there's nobody else, there is literally nobody else. So it looks like Mooney might play, but right now he is practicing in a limited fashion. I think London is clearly a 20-point plus play if Mooney doesn't play. However, they do go up against a very beat up Niners defense. Fred Warner just was out for the season last week, so there's some hope that even with Mooney, London can get to 20 points. I would bet on a lower 15. Despite he hasn't scored 10 with Mooney on the field. I mean, it's been just total opposite plays when Mooney plays. So I don't know. Like I said, I still think Niners defense is beat up, and I just love London's talent. So I'll bet on at least 15 if Mooney plays. Now, I've got another not so fun fact for Cameron. Jerry Jeudy has been the most underperforming wide receiver in fantasy football. Full stop, period. Jeudy is the 11th ranked receiver in what they call opportunities, quote unquote. That stat includes things like total targets, red zone targets, just different opportunities that they get, different uses opportunities. So he's got a ton of usage. So despite being a number one wide receiver in fantasy in terms of usage, he is the 46th scoring wide receiver in fantasy. There is no one even remotely close to that disparity. The next closest inefficient receiver is 10 lower spots, 10 in differential. So he has just been terrible. He had 13 targets last week and only managed 9 points. We get a point for every catch. That is atrocious. So is some of that on the quarterback play? Yeah, absolutely. But he's just not been good. So he's only scored double digits in one game. And in that game, he scored 11 points. AI has him scoring 12 points this week against Miami. I have no idea why. Miami's pass defense doesn't allow many points. It's not because they're good. It's because their run defense is bad. This game screams Judkins all day. I have no idea why AI would think Jeudy is going to have the best game of his year. If I'm Cameron, I'm actually looking at his bench. I think I'd play Whittington. He's the Rams receiver that essentially is going to replace Puka. I know Adams will, but I might take a shot on them. They're playing the Jags. I don't know. I call me out on Jeudy. All right, moving on to Ryan. Ryan brings CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, and Kendrick Bourne. All right, this is tough to predict. It's too early to know where the Niners wide receiver core is going to be in regards to injury. I could say that every week, and I could say that on Sunday mornings. Ryan's fantasy team resembles his real-life team. San Francisco is just a hospital. But let's assume everyone remains out. Well, then Kendrick Bourne is 20 points out of nothing other than necessity. Apparently, Demarcus Robinson sucks. I picked him over Kendrick Bourne, so be it. But he'd be great. Let's say everybody plays, meaning Kittle, Pearsall, and others. Well, then the ball gets spread around more, and I'd call him closer to 12 points. Again, no idea why AI is projecting something. AI is projecting him for 6 points. That makes no sense. So AI just off there, in my opinion. All right, so CeeDee Lamb. Probably going to play. He's practicing, although in a limited fashion, but they do say they expect him back. If he plays, mark him for 20. I mean, Dak is doing exactly what I thought he would do. When Dak plays, he's great. When he's hurt and he's in the playoffs, whatever. We're talking about fantasy. He's great. So mark CeeDee down for 20 points. If George Pickens can do it, there is no reason that CeeDee can't. So moving on to Devonta. Dude, the Eagles are a mess. Devonta scores 5 points every week or 20. There is no middle ground. That is his entire season. So I would count him down this week against a very tough defense, literally the toughest fantasy defense in football, the Vikings, as a down week. But I've got a fun fact, mostly because I like to rail on Hurts. So in today's NFL, just generally speaking, the best quarterbacks don't throw deep and outside. In 1995, that's where the game was played because you couldn't come over the middle of the field because people were headhunting. That's just receivers couldn't catch the ball in the middle of the field. So you had to throw deep to the outside. That's not true anymore. Now with all the rule changes, the league leaders in passing, specifically passing yards over 10 air yards, meaning the ball travels more than 10 yards in the air. So the league leaders in that stat where they're passing deeper passes like deep crossers, deep ends, those are the best quarterbacks in the league. That it just is. So just to give you an idea, the people highest in that rate, so passes over 10 yards in between the numbers, that's Stafford, Baker, Drake May, that's right, Steve, Drake May, Goff, and Darnold. Like, that's the list you want to be on. Bottom 7 in that stat, Rodgers, Fields, Russ, Browning, Bo Nix, and Spencer Rattler. Not the list you want to be on. Do you know who is below all of them? Jalen Hurts. He has a total of 5 completions in the entire season of balls that went over 10 yards in the middle of the field. Browning has 6. Hurts has been terrible passing the ball. So, edge, look, no idea because it's hard to predict who's going to play, but Ryan could get 60 points or he might be starting Juju. It's not good. Regardless, I'm going to take Ryan mostly because I think Cameron has 2 players this week at this position that might actually score under 10 points. So I'm taking Ryan. Cameron's group is rough. All right, we're past the 20-minute point. Let's kind of speed this up a little bit. Tight end and flex. Cameron is bringing the greatest rapper of all time, Darren Waller and Scary Terry. Do we even need to review Ryan's team here? I mean, Waller's going to get 3 TDs. He's got to get a $130 in yardage. He's amazing. McLaurin gets Dallas. Nice stack. I mean, couldn't pick a better week for the Washington stack. But he's questionable to play. He's limited. I'm assuming he's playing based on the reports. So, good to go here for Cameron. That's a great stack to have. Ryan brings all the fire with his flex. I mean, just going nuts. Are you ready for this? Kenny Gainwell. That's right. The same Kenny Gainwell that 2 weeks ago scored 31 points. That's the flex you want to have. Except Warren's back. And Kenny Gainwell's done nothing outside of that one game. So Ryan's just going to pray that Warren runs for 50 yards, gets tackled at the 1, has to come out to get a breather, and Gainwell falls into the end zone. That is basically what he is hoping for with his flex. Goddard's fine. Last week was literally the biggest game of his career. He's never had over 100 yards. He had 110. But otherwise, the rest of the year, he has under 40. He has basically 30 every week and 1 week with 19. He's just not been very good, except he catches a touchdown every week. So again, Ryan is just hoping somebody falls into the end zone. I'm betting against that versus the Vikings. So ginormous edge here to Cameron. So who gets the win? One team is going to be on the right side of 500, and I am taking Ryan. For Cameron to win, he's going to need Washington to just go totally ham. You know, Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin for 3 touchdowns, so he gets actually 6 out of it. I mean, that's not impossible, but Ryan's matchups are just, I mean, this is what you want. I mean, he has got stacks against Cincinnati and Tampa's defense. You just can't ask for better than that. All right, that's it. I've got Ryan going to the better side of 500. Cameron staring down the Sacco. Does he get back in the Sacco race, or can he get a couple more wins and stay out of the way of the Wizards and the Viking? I don't know. We'll find out. But that's it for this week, boys. Peace out. Chad, play me out.
We the jack shit sippers. We sippin', we sippin' jack shit sippers. We sippin' jack shit sippers. Alan hit me on my phone, he said I need